everyone, I am Ayla Marie Masangkay, or you can call me Ma'am Ayla. So how's your day everyone? Are you doing great? Are you alright there in your seats? Okay, that's great. Let's move on to our formal discussion. But before that, let me first read the learning objectives. At the end of the discussion, the students must have: first, identify what is New York School; second, distinguish first generation and second generation writers; and last, appreciate works of writers in New York School. What is New York School? The New York School refers to a group of experimental painters and coterie of associated poets. The name New York School is a result of an aesthetic sensibility and writing styles more than simply a location. The New York School was not an academic institution but rather a community built on proximity, relationship, similarity, style, method, and subject matter. When discussing poetic movement, literary scholars and even fans allude to the New York School. These literary movements began in 1960 in New York City and resulting into two generations of poets. We known for poetic use of ironic incorporation of urban life, pop culture, wild and unexpected linguistic play. The New York School of Poetry was an innovative group of poets made up principally by John Ashbery, Kenneth Koch, Frank O'Hara, Barbara Guest, and James Schuyler. Their poetry was experimental, philosophical, anti-establishment, and anti-academic. The group began in 1950s and slowly associated called abstract expressionism or action painting. The poets in this literary period appropriates various aspects of French surrealism and French symbolism. They also employed typically surrealistic juxtaposition which intended to be combined with lexical observation of the human behavior and speech. Their poetry stays on the facts, events, and objects with everyday life, and it is characterized by an impulse to blur between the boundary art and life. In writing poetry that includes the discourse on details of human interactions, the poets complains the differences between what is normally considered material for art and what people experiences in a day-to-day existence. The New York School of Poets is often recognized into two generations, the first generation and the second generation. The first generation of New York School was centered around the corner comprised poet John Ashbery, Kenneth Koch, Frank O'Hara, Barbara Guest, and James Schuyler. The writers who belong to this movement spontaneously and humor in their verse. Often they wrote about contemporary events and cultural movements. The poetic movement is closely related to the visual arts side of the New York School. Artists like Jackson Pollock and William de Kooning were inspired by writers. John Ashbery. John Ashbery was self-reflective and uses high allusion in poetry. He is also recognized as one of the greatest 20th century American poets. Ashbery is considered the most influential American poet of his time. Oxford University's literary critic John Bailey wrote that Ashbery sounded in poetry the standard tones of the age. Ashbery published more than 20 volumes of poetry, including A Poet's Surprise in 1976 for his collection Self-Portrait Convicts Mirror. Kenneth Koch. Kenneth Koch was an American poet, playwright, and a professor, active from the 1950s until his death at the age of 77. He was a prominent poet of the New York School of Poetry. Prize-winning author Kenneth Koch published numerous collections of poetry, avant-garde plays, and short fictions, while also serving as one of the nation's best-known creative writing teachers during a career that spanned over the decades. Frank O'Hara. Frank O'Hara was born in 1926 and died in 1966. He was considered the leader of the New York School of Poets. He also used insight from music led to his nickname to the poet, leading among painters and doing his poetry with a sense of liveliness. He He had also gained popularity after the publication his lunch poems. Barbara Guest. Barbara Guest was an American poet and prose stylist. Barbara Guest first gained recognition as a member of the first generation in New York School of Poetry. Guest wrote more than 15 books of poetry spanning 60 years of writing, and in 1999, she was awarded the Prose Medal for Lifetime Achievements by the Poetry Society of America. James Schuyler. James Schuyler was an essential figure in the New York School. He also considered as the most lyrical and musical of the group, which is known for his conversational style and charm. That would be all on my part. I hope you learned something from me. Thank you.